Are you a Texas gardener and you're struggling with rocky soil, shade, or our extreme Texas heat? Well, welcome to my channel. I'm a Central Texas gardener in Zone 8B, and in today's video, I'm excited to share 9 underrated plants for your Texas garden that solve exactly those issues. I hope you guys enjoy the video. So one of the biggest challenges that we have in Central Texas is growing in rocky soil, and we're sitting on top of a lot of limestone, and so it's also very alkaline. And I wanted to share a couple of plants that take that rocky soil with no problem. As a matter of fact, they prefer very sharp drainage, and that's exactly what rocky soil gives you. The first one is Wright skullcap, and that's what I have right here. This is a Texas native, getting about 1 foot in height and about 1 to 3 foot in spread. So it's a really great border plant if you've got something that you need to stay low to the ground, maybe in front of a landscape bed. It does prefer full sun, can take a little bit of shade, but will get pretty leggy on you when it comes to having any sort of shade. Right now, this Wright skullcap is looking pretty supple, and I will say that I've noticed towards the end of our summers that my Wright skullcap tends to look a bit drier, but I think that's probably just a protective measure that this plant has to survive our very hot summers. It often perks back up in fall. It is a blooming perennial, and so you can see these beautiful purple blooms on it. Tends to bloom more when we get a rain, but it'll bloom from spring all the way till we get those first hard freezes of winter. So another really great plant for rocky soil is Santolina. And Santolina is a well-adapted plant for our area. It's actually native to the Mediterranean. It gets about 1 to 2 foot in height and about 1 to 3 foot in spread, so about the same size as that Wright skullcap, has that beautiful mounding habit. Santolina is an evergreen, so it'll give you all year interest, and it also flowers. And I have a green variety of Santolina behind me, but I actually also grow a gray variety. Now, this really, I think, prefers a full sun setting, and I did have my Santolina, this green, I had 2 of them in the backyard, and they were more in a part sun setting, and they really just didn't thrive. So in the fall, I transplanted these up to the front of my home where I have more of a western sun exposure, and they really are doing so much better. Even though it's just at the beginning of April at the recording of this video, they're already just doing so much better than they did all last year in that part sun setting. Now, if you've watched this channel for any length of time, you might say, gee, Natalie, I thought you had clay soil primarily, and I do. I do have some pockets of caliche and limestone throughout, but I really am primarily working with clay soil. And so you might be wondering how I'm getting these plants that really thrive in rocky soils to do well. Well, it has been my preference to amend my soil with expanded shale. It's a material that as you mix it into the soil, it really opens up that soil, allowing for good drainage. And that's been my preference to kind of help improve my clay soil drainage. Over things like compost even, which compost is a great way to amend your soil to improve drainage, but our Texas natives really do not prefer a rich soil. And you know, compost is going to add a lot of nitrogen and things like that, and they don't like that. So I use the expanded shale over compost for a lot of my native plantings. Now, I have heard of some people using sand to amend their clay soil, and I don't have any experience with this, but I think the concern with that is that sand may turn your clay into concrete. So if you've got any experience with using sand to amend your clay soil, or if you amend your clay soil with other things, just leave a comment in the comment section below and let us know what you do. So another challenge that you may have is growing plants in the shade. And while we all would love a little shade in Texas, especially during the summer, it can make it difficult to find plants that bloom or provide interest. And so I wanted to share 3 of my favorite shade-performing plants that I currently grow in my garden. And first up is cedar sage. And cedar sage is actually not a cedar. It is a salvia, and it is a shade-preferring salvia. It does grow under cedar trees, and I currently have it growing under my junipers here. And so you might say, is it cedar or is it juniper? So we're going to go on a rabbit trail for just a moment. Well, they're actually junipers, and our most famous or infamous juniper in Texas is probably the ash juniper, which is known for causing that cedar fever that everybody dreads. And apparently, as I understand it, our early Texas settlers mistook these juniper trees for cedar trees because they look and smelled like cedar trees from Europe and from Asia. And so that's why we call them cedars, even though they're really junipers. And so I have a hedge of about 7 Spartan junipers, and I've got cedar sage growing underneath them. And these are one of the early blooming plants in a Texas garden. As our hummingbirds begin to migrate up north, they provide an early nectar source along with things like crossvine. So another really great reason to grow this plant. So I know this doesn't look like much, but it's early in the season and this plant is just getting started. But this is chile pequin, and this is a Texas native plant that gets about 2 to 4 feet in height, loves shade. And it does have these little tiny fruit on it. They are very, very spicy and the birds love it, but you can eat them too. And they're really good if you kind of crush them in like an egg scramble. Now that being said, the chilies from the chile pequin are extremely hot, like 5 to 10 times that of a jalapeno. So don't just casually walk by and pop one in your mouth. I've done that and I've regretted it instantly. And so one of the fun things I love about this plant, and then I kind of discovered it on accident last year, was that you can train this to grow vertically. And I didn't actually have to train it. I just happened to have this chile pequin here. And then I put up this wall trellis just for kind of decoration to kind of, you know, fill in this negative space. And it just started climbing it. And it was so lovely all last year. And my chile pequin performed all year long for me, well into those first hard freezes. Sometimes they will completely die after a freeze, but sometimes they'll just go dormant. And I have several plants here that have just gone dormant. They reseed readily. So I've got lots of little peppers scattered around. And so I'm probably going to have lots of little extra chile pequin plants popping up soon. So the next plant I want to talk to you about is Turk's cap. And Turk's cap is a beautiful Texas native, getting about 4 to 6 feet in height and spread. It'll absolutely perform for you in the shade, but also in the sun. And here behind me, I've got some immature specimens. I've got about 5 planted in this grouping here. And I've done that because I've got a Monterey oak right there that is going to get bigger and bigger and probably cast a lot of shade. But until that, they're going to take the sun no problem, and then when it's shady, they're going to take that no problem. So it is a perfect plant for your Texas shade garden. Texas is known for its heat-tolerant plants, though in this next segment, I want to share 4 native and well-adapted plants that are not as widely known. And I wanted to start off with this first one, skeleton leaf goldeneye, and that's what I've got here. And skeleton leaf goldeneye is a Texas native plant that gets about 2 to 4 feet in height and spread. It loves the heat, and it does very well in drought also. It primarily blooms from late summer into early fall, though it'll bloom sporadically throughout the growing season. And as a matter of fact, I've got buds on it right now, and it's currently April. And so this is loved by the pollinators, and because it is a late summer bloomer, it might be a great way for you to have a late season nectar source for the pollinators. The foliage on it is really interesting. It's got a very narrow foliage, hence the name skeleton leaf, and so that just kind of brings some interest in terms of foliage size, and so it's just a stunner, and I wish I would see this more in Texas landscapes, but maybe now I will. This is Mexican oregano, and Mexican oregano is a well-adapted plant for our area, getting about 3 to 4 feet in height and spread, though it can get quite a bit bigger if it's happy. It prefers a full sun setting and can take our Texas heat without problems. It does flower as well through the summer and the fall, and it's considered a semi-evergreen, and so sometimes it will go dormant if we get a hard freeze through the winter, but sometimes it'll remain evergreen for you. This plant the leaves of the plant can be dried and used in your cooking. Here I have Mexican mint marigold, and Mexican mint marigold is a well-adapted plant for our area, and it loves the heat. So it loves a full sun setting, gets about 2 to 3 foot in height and about 1 to 2 foot in spread. It blooms primarily in the late summer through the fall, and it has these beautiful yellow daisy-like blooms. And the smell on just the foliage right now, I can smell it. It smells so good, like licorice. And you can dry the leaves of this and kind of like the Mexican oregano, use it in your cooking. And apparently it's supposed to taste like tarragon, and that's how you would use it. And so this is another wonderful, well-adapted plant for a Texas garden that I really don't feel gets enough hype. It's, like I said, a wonderful late season nectar source for your pollinators. So if you're looking for something like that, this would be perfect. So welcome to my yucca paradise. And so behind me here, you can see I've got two varieties of yucca. I have the more traditional red yucca, which is very well known to Texas because it's very heat and drought tolerant. As a matter of fact, it's about as close to lawn furniture as you can get for a plant, super low maintenance. But what I wanted to highlight was the other yucca you see here, and this is Yucca pallida, and that's got the white flower stalks. And Yucca pallida is native to us here in Texas, and super drought tolerant plant, loves the heat but can take bright shade as well. And so this is a great plant if you're looking to create some architectural interest in your landscape. You know, if everything looks shrubby and you need something a little stronger in its look, consider a yucca. Now, the one thing I will say about yucca is, at least Yucca pallida, is it's very spiky. Matter of fact, I'd call it stabby. Okay, so you probably don't want to put this where you're going to be walking through or little ones can get into easily because you can get hurt. These do not flower all year long. They primarily flower in the spring, and I'm enjoying that very much, that display right now. But these are evergreen and in fact are very cold hardy. I've talked to people in Dallas, or gardeners in Dallas, who've said that their Yucca pallida does just fine. And so this is a really good option for your very hot Texas garden. All right, guys, I thought I would share a few fun things going on in my garden at the beginning of April. And I'd like to start off with this golden ball lead tree, which is a beautiful Texas native tree. Gets about ornamental size, really needs well-draining soil to thrive. We had about an inch of rain this morning, and so you can see those flower heads look like they're all pretty rain-soaked. But this is just such a charming tree. I really enjoy it. All right, coming up underneath my desert willow that is now leafing out is wine cup. And I have heard there are several varieties of wine cup. I'm not sure if which one I've got, but it's pretty tall. It's like 3 feet tall. So I have always seen wine cup grow significantly shorter than that, but this one's a pretty tall variety. These are really their loveliest in the spring, so I thought I'd take the time to show you now where they look so good. In the summer, they tend to go heat dormant, and so there's not much flowering or anything like that. And they act as a ground cover. They'll get quite a spread. And as a matter of fact, I mean, they're slowly making their way across this bed, which is fine by me. I think they're really pretty in that sort of mass planting that way. Coming up here is my Texas redbud, and you can see sort of the remnants of the spring blooms. It only has these for a few weeks in the spring, and it is now leafing out into these really pretty chartreuse leaves. And this is an ornamental sized tree. Next to it, I have another type of redbud called a forest pansy. And this one I don't think has any flowers left on it, but it leaves out into this sort of burgundy colored leaf. And then I have noticed as it gets hotter, the leaves turn green. Coming along here, I have got some Jerusalem sage that is blooming. And I've got 2 plants here, and they smell so sweet. I always love standing by them because those blooms just smell so good. All right, coming along this area, I've got some bluebonnet remnants. And as we walk down this way, you can see that bright pop of yellow. This is Damianita, and this is about the best they've ever looked for me. I just installed these last fall, and they're really they're really performing very well. I've had them in I think a part shade setting in the past, and I think they really do prefer a full sun setting. And then coming along this way is blanket flower. And I sowed these blanket flower seeds in the fall, and these have been like no maintenance apart from getting those seeds to germinate. And I think I had to, like, when we had our freeze in January, I think I tried to cover up the little seedlings that had popped up with some mulch, but really there's been zero maintenance besides that. And so look how fun that is. And so I did add another one back here, and I would love to just kind of extend this into a large drift all through back there. Here I've got some salvia, and this is the Henry Dulberg variety. And I've got both that purpley blue color, and then I've also got the Augusta Dulberg, which is the white color. And so it's fun to see them both growing back here, and then you can see how prolific they are at reseeding themselves, because I got little baby salvias everywhere. So this is a really good plant to get if you are on a budget and you need to have free plants, because these will deliver for you in short order. Back here, this doesn't look like much now, but this is Mexican flame vine, and these are a beautiful vine that bloom all season, all growing season. I mean, from probably as soon as it'll climb up enough, maybe summer through the first hard freezes. But they are pretty cold, tender, and they can die all the way. So I did take some cuttings, and just in case to plant more here, because I thought they were so pretty here last year. But they actually survived and are coming back, so I'm excited about that. All right, and then coming along here, you can see the remnants of those blue bonnets, but the red autumn sage is waking up. And I really like how that red is intermixed with the blue, so you can kind of see that over here. It's so pretty. And so I'm just going to let all these blue bonnets self-seed, and they'll sort of fill in the gaps between all these plants. And so we'll get a bit of a show in the spring, and then they'll, I'll have to pull them up when they're done, but I think it's worth it. Finally, I wanted to share this silver pony's foot, and this was actually a volunteer. I did not plant this here. I think a bird helped me out, but this is acting as a living mulch, meaning it's providing the same benefits of mulch: water regulation, weed suppression, and temperature control, but I don't have to replace it. And so it's growing all through here, and I'm going to let it keep growing. And this does go dormant in the winter, but it still provides like a mat of like the dead plant material, so it still kind of acts like a mulch. So I really just like the look of that. I just kind of trim the edges as they start to grow over the sidewalk, but it looks pretty happy. In this segment of Garden Helpers, I'm excited to share a really cool tool called the CobraHead cultivator. And this is the equivalent of having a steel fingernail, so you can accomplish all sorts of gardening tasks. Where I primarily use this is in my weeding. And the head of this is sort of beveled, and it's kind of got a sharp cutting edge on each side. So it's really easy to get just right underneath those weeds, pull them out by the root, and especially in places like my rock garden beds where you've got to dig in between the little rock crevices. I use it in my decomposed granite and in regular soil too. I also use this to break up compacted soil in my raised garden beds or in like a pot or something like that. And then I also use this to kind of clean up some of my garden bed edges. Now, these products are made in Wisconsin. The steel is forged in Wisconsin. The handle is made out of recycled plastic, and it feels really good in your hand. This particular size is the mini, and it comes in 3 sizes. So there's the mini, and then here is the original. And then it actually comes in a long-handled version so that you can use a tool while standing. And so you got a bad back or bad knees, that's an excellent option. Now, I will be giving away the original sized CobraHead. So head on over to my Instagram page where I will share those giveaway details. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until the next one, y'all take care.